Okay, so you want to own a laundromat. You've seen the pitch. It runs on every business channel on this platform. No employees. The machines run themselves. All cash, quarters into a slot, a bucket of coins at the end of the week, and it's recession-proof because people wash their clothes whether the economy is booming or falling apart. It might be the most passive business a normal person can actually afford to buy. And here's the part that makes this strange. All of that is true. Every single claim. There are no employees in a self-service store. It is close to an all-cash business. It genuinely does survive recessions. When people lose their homes and move into apartments, they lose their washer and dryer, and they come straight to you. The people selling you this dream are not lying. So why does almost nobody actually get rich owning one? That's the real question, and it has a real answer. By the end of this video, you'll understand the number everyone gets wrong about laundromat margins, the single cost that stays invisible right up until the day it nearly bankrupts the owner, the metric the IRS quietly uses to decide whether you're lying on your taxes, and why, if these places are such reliable money machines, the number of them in America has been collapsing for 20 years. And you'll understand who is actually getting rich in this industry, because someone is. It's just not who you think. Let's start with the myth, the big one. You've heard that the word laundering, as in money laundering, comes from the mob. The story goes that Al Capone bought up laundromats across Chicago to wash his dirty cash through a legitimate all-cash business. It's a perfect story. It's also impossible. The first laundromat in America didn't open until 1934 in Fort Worth, Texas. A man named C.A. Tannehill rented out 4 electric washing machines by the hour. Al Capone went to prison in 1931. 3 years before the business he supposedly used even existed. The author Jeffrey Robinson, who wrote the definitive book on money laundering, called the Capone story a neat story, but not true. But here's why the myth stuck. It stuck because everyone instinctively understands that a room full of coin machines is almost impossible to audit. And that single fact, the all-cash, hard-to-verify nature of the business, is the thing that built its entire reputation. It's why for decades banks didn't trust a laundromat owner's income. And it's the first clue to why this business is so much harder than it looks. Because to understand a laundromat, you have to understand that the cash is the easy part. Here's what it actually costs to get in. If you build one from scratch, you're looking at $200,000 to $500,000, and large builds run past $1 million. If you buy an existing store, the price is set by a rule the whole industry uses, 3 to 5 times the store's annual net cash flow. That's it. The building, the machines, the customer base, all of it priced off one number, what the store actually clears after every bill is paid. And that number is where the dream starts to crack, because the laundromat is one of the most profitable small businesses in America. On paper, the marketplace Biz Buy Sell, which tracks thousands of small business sales, found that sellers' discretionary earnings margins for laundromats climbed to nearly 38%, making them, in their words, one of the most profitable types of small business they trade. 38%. A restaurant owner would weep, but that's the margin after the owner pays themselves, and before the 2 costs that quietly decide whether this business is a gold mine or a trap. And nobody puts those 2 costs in the brochure. Here's the first one. A laundromat has almost no labor cost, but it has a monster in its place, and the monster is utilities. Water, sewer, gas to heat the water, electricity to run the machines. Depending on how old and inefficient your equipment is, utilities eat somewhere between 15 and 40% of everything the store takes in. 40%. That's not a rounding error. That's the difference between a business that prints money and one that slowly bleeds. And this isn't a fringe complaint. In 2024, The industry's own trade group surveyed nearly 6,000 laundry owners. More than half of them named the same thing as their single biggest problem. Not crime, not competition, not customers. Utility costs. The one bill you cannot fire, cannot automate, and cannot escape, and it climbs every single year. So the machines run themselves, but every gallon of hot water they use is quietly working against you. And that brings us to the cost that's even more dangerous. Because unlike utilities, this one is invisible, right up until the day it lands all at once. Think about what no employees really means. It means the machines are the workforce, and workers eventually retire. A commercial front-load washer lasts 10 to 15 years, a dryer about the same, and a real laundromat doesn't have 3 machines. It has 40, 60, or 100, which means that somewhere down the line, all at once, an owner is staring down a bill to replace an entire floor of equipment. A single new large washer can run $7,000, $10,000, $20,000. Multiply that across a full store, add $1,000 to $5,000 just to install each one, and you're looking at a replacement bill in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. The passive income pitch never mentions this, because for the first several years, it's true. The machines just run, and the money just comes in. The owner feels like a genius, and then year 12 arrives, and the genius discovers he wasn't running a passive business. He was slowly using up a very expensive asset that he now has to buy all over again. If you thought the utility bill was the trap, the replacement cycle is the thing that actually ends people. And there's a third force, quieter than both, and in some ways the most important of all. Because here's the thing, almost nobody realizes about a laundromat. You usually don't own the building. You own the machines. You own the business. But the floor they sit on, that belongs to a landlord on a lease that runs 10, 15, 25 years. And that lease is the single most important number in the entire deal. More important than the equipment, more important than the location, more important than the brand on the machines. Because if your rent is too high, or your lease is too short, or it comes up for renewal right when a landlord realizes what you're earning, the whole business can evaporate overnight. You can do everything right and still lose it all, because the ground was never yours. This is the hidden fragility underneath the own a laundromat dream. In the self-storage world, the big operators got rich precisely because they owned the land. In the laundromat world, most owners are tenants, and a tenant is always one lease renewal away from zero. So now you understand the 3 forces working against the fantasy. Utilities you can't escape, equipment you have to buy twice, and a lease that isn't yours. Which raises the question the entire business comes down to. How do you know if a specific laundromat is a gold mine or a grave? There's exactly one metric that answers it, and it has a name. Turns per day. It's simple. How many times does the average machine get used in a single day? Run each machine 3 times a day, and you have a struggling store. Run it 8 times a day, and you have a small fortune. That's the whole game. And here's the detail that tells you everything about how murky this business really is. The IRS uses that exact same number, turns per day, to estimate what a laundromat should be earning, so they can tell whether an owner is hiding cash. And the range the IRS uses runs from 3 all the way to 8. As one operator put it, the gap between 3 and 8 is huge enough to drive a truck through. That gap is the whole business. 2 stores that look identical from the street. Same machines, same size, same quarters in the same slots, can live on opposite ends of it. One makes its owner wealthy. One quietly drains their savings. And you often can't tell which is which until your name is on the lease. Which brings us to the strangest part of this whole story, the disappearing act. If laundromats are such dependable little money machines, there should be more of them every year. There are fewer. A lot fewer. The research firm IBIS World counts around 17,000 laundromats in America in 2026. And that number has been falling by roughly 1.5% a year, down about 20% since 2005. Thousands of these stores have simply vanished. But here's the twist, and this is the part that finally explains who's really getting rich. Because while the number of stores was falling, the total money the industry makes was going up. The US Census measured industry revenue at $4.4 billion in 2017. By 2022, it had climbed to around $5.5 billion. Fewer stores, more money, which can only mean one thing. The mom-and-pop corner laundromat, the coin-only, run-it-yourself store the gurus are selling you, is dying. And something bigger and hungrier is eating its lunch. Two things, actually. The first is a shift in what a laundromat even is. The pure self-service, quarters-in-a-slot model is being replaced by something far more profitable and far less passive. Wash, dry, fold, where customers drop off a bag and pay by the pound, and pickup and delivery, where an app sends a driver to your door. This is the fastest growing part of the entire industry, and notice what it requires. Employees, people to wash, dry, fold, and drive. The no employees business, the entire foundation of the passive income pitch, is being outcompeted by a version of itself that runs on labor. The owners actually growing their revenue did it by abandoning the exact thing that made the business sound easy in the first place. And the second group getting rich, they figured out something even smarter. They stopped selling laundry and started selling the dream itself. There is now an entire economy built on top of this business. Books, podcasts, YouTube channels, coaching programs and mastermind groups, many of them charging around $1,000, all promising to teach you how to build passive laundromat income. And some of these educators are genuinely successful operators. But it's worth noticing the structure of it. A reliable, recession-proof, all-cash income stream built not on washing machines, but on selling courses to people who want to buy washing machines. And the sharpest critic of that whole machine, one of the most famous laundromat educators in the country. His name is Dave Menz. He wrote the book on it, literally. And even he says, quote, "I've seen a lot of people get into the laundromat business for the wrong reasons, because they've been sold this dream that a laundromat is this incredibly passive income powerhouse that'll immediately make money with almost no work." That's a man who sells the dream, warning you about the dream. So, should you buy one? Here's the honest answer the pitch never gives you. A laundromat is not a passive income machine. It's a real business, wearing a costume that makes it look like one. Underneath the costume is a set of hard, unglamorous jobs. Watching your utility bill like a hawk. Setting aside money for the replacement wave you know is coming. Fighting for a lease that protects you instead of the landlord. And squeezing out every last turn per day you can get. Do all of that, and yes, it can throw off a genuinely great income for decades. It really can be recession-proof. It really can run mostly on its own. But it will never be free money. It was never free money. The all-cash bucket of quarters that made the whole thing look so easy was always hiding the truth, which is that in this business, the coins were never the hard part. The hard part was everything the coins were quietly paying for. So the next time you drive past one of those glowing, empty laundromats at 10 o'clock at night, humming away with nobody inside, you'll know the real question isn't whether it's making money. It's whether the person who owns it is actually keeping any, whether their lease is safe, whether their replacement bill is coming, and whether they own a business or just bought themselves a very expensive job that happens to smell like detergent. If this changed the way you look at the one at the end of your street, subscribe. We take apart one everyday business every week, and the numbers are never what you'd guess.